right, welcome back to the 2025 season. You've probably noticed a few little changes. I know for a fact microphone sort of quality won't be quite as good as it was last year, purely because I haven't really ran back through my settings to kick the season off. So do apologize if there's any microphone sort of improvements I can make. I will get to them as further releases come out. So bear with me for whatever the vocal audio quality is for this one. It should be pretty standard, but it won't be quite as crisp as where I had it last season. I'm just going to kick the season off with a overall sort of positional rankings, run through some of the top positions. I'm not going to get to 5/8 CT dub and fullback today. I'm going to keep it in the forwards and then touch on halfback towards the end. This is basically release number 1. This will change. So this is where I'm at currently. And the reason I want to do this now before perfecting my rankings is I'm keen on some feedback and some interaction in the comments. So just let me know where you disagree, where you think I need to put some time into rethinking some that I've been super flat out to start the season. So this is just a starting point, which I'm really happy with. I'll jump into the board in a sec. But yeah, as we go along, just, it's pretty fluid. I'm going to honestly have people in here that are probably not even on the right teams. I don't mention teams in the list here, but just in my analysis. And some people that may not even be in the NRL anymore. So just sort of phasing through that tidying up process this week. And I want to kickstart that with you guys now. So jumping right in. The board key at the top before we talk about hookers is upside gamble yellow, boom or a value in blue, and regression risk in sort of that orangey brown color. Harry Grant's my number 1. Does play Origin, which I don't love. And as with Harry Grant, again, he has to be a certain value for me to really be interested. And he isn't someone I'm targeting aggressively. Damien Cook, on the other hand, he might fly under the radar a bit, potentially, depending on your league settings and your league members. I like him as a bit of an upside gamble. Like Reece Robson, but just playing Origin is something you've got to consider. Appy, I'm not really sure. Oh, those numbers, by the way, between the next to the player's name is like the last season's average once I did a bit of tidying up. More or less, it's not perfectly accurate, but it's more or less where they were last year. So it doesn't have a huge impact, but it just is a consideration factor. I think there's potentially a bit of a tier break just because JMK, Jeremy Marshall-King, he's just really injury prone. Someone might argue that so is Coruscant. He didn't seem too bad last year. Coruscant's minutes are questionable. I really don't care about hookers, so this is definitely a rankings order that I review pretty quickly and make some serious changes. I know Connor Watson's popular in classics, I think, so that's going to be interesting. I think Maxi Plath is a bit of a regression risk. I think there's a lot more mouths to feed there. JMK's back, so just not sure what the future looks like for Maxi Plath, so just don't overdraft him. Reed Marnie, it's fine. Peter Mamouzelos moves into that like draftable tier now, starting. Little, I think, gets hurt a bit with Damien Cook. He probably needs to be a bit lower than that, but just due to last year's scores, I've sort of kept him in the mix as a discussion point. Blake Brayley, again, just didn't really deliver last year. Wade Egan's pretty good. He really started strong and then faded hard, and he's a just non-stop concussion risk and injury risk. I can't draft him unless I get him for $1 at the end of my draft. I'll take him and plug him in until something better comes along. Chris Randall was really good at points when he got to play lock, but with Tino back, and I think RCG coming up, I'm just not sure where Randall sort of fits in. One to keep an eye on. Again, I wouldn't be getting him for more than $1 or off waivers once the season starts. Mitch Kenny, plays the minutes, doesn't do much else. I'm going to move off hookers because I'm just not that interested in it, and probably nor should you guys be. Front rowers, AFB still sits at the top because he's going to dominate when he does play. In my opinion, I think he's going to do a lot of be a benefactor of a lot of the ways that Tom Hazelton, sorry. So I think he sits at the top, but just due to that buy, I'm not super keen on him. It's not someone I wouldn't draft. I just think the price he's going to go for after last season is a bit too steep for my liking. Mitchie Barnett, I think he's due for a bit of regression, and it's going to be on account of just different mouths to feed there. And I just think he had some really big games, like playing 80 minutes and doing a bunch of other stuff that boosted his average last year from memory. So yeah, just want to monitor. Payne Haas will be good, and Mitch and Payne playing Origin I don't love. Tino's back, he'll play Origin I suspect. Keep an eye on him. The Origin doesn't mean I won't draft him. It's just like a big consideration for me. And the way I noticed it affect my team, not just with people missing and then resting, but also the higher chance of injury due to the like intensity of Origin. Terrell May is the big upside gamble in the top 4 front rowers. A guy I am probably targeting. There's a risk with him. Personality risk, team risk, minutes, uncertainties, all this sort of thing. But he's a guy I'd happily draft and just take the punt, because if you hit on him, you're going to benefit. Bit of a tier break, even though the scoring doesn't reflect that to Joey Tapp. So just Raiders just don't really do it for me. Again, I'm just in draft with, I'm in, I guess, phase 1 of this process. So that gap between Tino and Joey shouldn't be that big. Realistically, it's just the way that I was editing my spreadsheet. So it's just a tier break, not like a double break or anything. Steph, I was higher on Steph until I really started thinking about it. And then we just don't know. And where's he at mentally at the Storm? He could be a beast. He's definitely someone that I should probably put the upside gamble tag against. He's just not someone I want to gamble on. So I haven't done it, but I will do that. Not super... Again, he's just a value, guys. He's just a one that if for the right price, you could consider him. Max King, Joshy Curran. Max King will probably be better than Joshy Curran this year. Thought Curran was really good in spots. For some reason, sometimes there was a lot of inconsistency around his minutes and whatnot. So I fear that may continue in 2025. So don't be paying too much for Josh Curran. Ruben Cotter's fine, does play Origin. JDB, we saw him regress, probably stays pretty mediocre. Jackson Ford, he started really good last year. He could provide a bit of value, but I don't know if he'll have that front row allocation. I need to see some team lists before I finalize like my Warriors forward pack rankings sort of thing. JFH, I think he'll just still be like that leadership sort of 40 to 50 minutes, and he needs to do a bit to sort of go above 55. Not someone I'm targeting. Even though the Warriors do have a pretty good finals draw, I don't know how much that impacts a forward, so that doesn't really do it for me. Lindsay Smith, I do think is a strong value, but I think he'll be discussed. Him and Lee Henry will be talked about quite a bit by people, so I think the value would have to be pretty interesting on him for you to get what you want. Samuel Afinu, if he maintains that front row eligibility, which I doubt he will, he would be someone I'd look at. I've got him in this list just in case. I haven't gone and fine-tooth combed it, but he'd be someone, if he did have that front row eligibility, you jump on as a second row playing in your front row. Liam Henry, I like. Corey Jensen, I think he'll be average. Hazelton, I think with AFB there, that's not going to be, he's not going to be a factor. None of these guys really do it. Thomas Flagler, you got to keep an eye on his health. Royce Hunt gets a bit of hype in Classic, so don't buy into. I'm not sure he'll ever be much more than a impact player. Jolliffe with RCG there, I just don't know. Like, and Tino, the mouths feeding. There's a lot of names there in that Titans forward pack, so not too keen on him. I know Leo Thompson gets a bit of hype as like a late round guy to grab for your front row, and I tend to agree there. So yeah, not too bad there. I'm not interested in Jai Arrow. So for 2RF, this is where I'm at. Yeah, it's sort of an elite group to me, which is Fifi, Katoa, and Yo. Different sort of reasons. Yo, I think he's just super consistent. Someone I should have targeted last year again, didn't quite do it, and this year I'll have my eye on him. Fifita, just due to sort of game-breaking ability, I think I really like him. I think he'll play Origin this year. I think they'll get that right, which will impact him. Katoa doesn't play Origin, which I love, and I think even though he does have a little less maybe consistency than Fifita and Yo, I think he's only going to get better, only going to get fitter, only going to improve that combination with Jerome Hughes. So I think, in my opinion, he makes this tier. There's another little gap, I reckon, personally, just between Ola Kawhi and Crichton. Ola just hasn't really gone on with it, but due to Manly being so good this having such a good sort of finals run and strength of schedule this year, I think they'll be better this year again. I do like him in that bracket. And then Angus, I think he'll have a tiny regression there, and just due to them both playing Origin, I think it also impacts them potentially. So yeah, just want to have a bit of a break there. Then the next runner, guys, the finals kills Nicker and Young for me. Young I don't want to touch anyway. Richie Barnett, don't think he'll be there again, but I can't lower him. I just wouldn't target him. Hopgood, I think he's presents a bit of value. Paddy Carrigan, I think, presents a bit of value in the sense that he could become dual position. So he's one to keep an eye on. Cameron Murray, I don't ever go for, but I think he probably makes this tier under Wayne. I reckon he's in for an improvement on last year, personally. Fermor, I like. Playing Origin isn't great for him, and I think Papali'i does present an upside gamble, even though we just don't know how he'll be utilised. He's someone that, you could absolutely hit the jackpot with Isaiah Papali'i, and that needs to be mentioned, and that needs to be factored in, that he could go bananas. Even though he'll play on the left, Papali'i, I still think, just being in the Panthers, we've just seen what happens in that team. Kolomatangi, finals bye. Not sure what role he has. I can't confidently place him in that tier above. Maybe he belongs there and I'm being a bit harsh, but again, this is a first draft, like, to publicise this. So that'll change, guys. I can really see this group kind of chopping and changing a lot. This is just my gut feeling. And that tier break isn't a major break. It's just mentally me saying, like, this guy has a bye. I just don't really want to consider him, and he's not quite that Nikora level. Sewer, he did it last year, but he hadn't ever done it really before, so not keen on him, but that team might be a bit better, but then he doesn't have Benny Hunt. Not for me. Nanai, not really ever for me. Preston, I think, will be better this year. Again, he's a guy that will really, his rankings will be impacted a bit by team list, but I'm really worried for him if the Bulldogs go towards that multiple second rower model we've seen some teams take on, where there's like a lot of second rowers on the bench that chop in and out and eat minutes away. So unless he's 80 minutes, again, it's going to be tough. So one to monitor. McInnes could probably be a bit higher, to be honest. So yeah, interested on anyone's thoughts on McInnes. I didn't pay a lot of attention to his back end of the year last year, to be honest. In sort of the next group is the regression and the concern guys for me, with a few values. Blore and Kai Pearce-Ball and even Samuel Afino, I think, will be better this year. So they're the call outs there. And then Plath Aitken, I just don't have certainty over. Cotter Curran will Curran lose to RF? I haven't double checked that in the app yet. Lucas, I really like Lucas as a player. Just don't know enough about his job security or job certainty, I should say. In the next tier, not anything crazy interesting. I think Tallis Duncan, does he have his, like, sort of, not breakout, but does he sort of, is he the Kai Pearce-Paul of last year for this year, where he sort of is playable in your team? I don't know. Wilton had some injuries and just sort of, he flustered a bit. I've always drafted Wilton because I can get him for $1 and he's a starting back row and a good team. The buy for Wilton this year in round 25 hurts him as well a little bit. Like, it's not like not anything to really impact the way you view his draft value. It's just something to consider. Look, his average is bad, but if you watch the games, he's pretty good. So yeah, Wilton, I just think he makes this group of guys where you shouldn't pay more than $2 for really any of these guys. And you hope if they hit and become 80-minute back rowers and they've got a 60 average in them, that's what this group, I think, represents. Few sort of bit of chatter about John Bateman. Look, he's just not for me. He just doesn't seem to have that element of his game he had when he came across originally. He's not breaking any tackles. He's too small. He's not quite agile enough. Maybe it's famous last words, but I don't think you should buy too much into the John Bateman hype. Unless there's a reinvigoration, but he's moving to the hottest part of the country after being a British guy who couldn't really deliver in the back end of his Canberra rate thing, and he was just pretty mid in the Tigers, but he's a great dollar pickup kind of guy on your bench and see what he offers you in the first few weeks, first few rounds, if he does start. Zach Hosking is obviously a good player, but to me, he's actually deserves the label of injury prone. I'm just not interested personally. Anyone else mentioning there? Not really. I hope I haven't missed anything major discussion points here. Okay, moving through the halfbacks to the final one for this little micro release, guys. Cleary's number one for me still. Jerome Hughes makes that tier. I think he's good enough, and the fact he doesn't play Origin, you've got him all touchwood all season just to keep delivering you high upside. And yeah, he doesn't have a bye in the finals. He is a league winner. He's a gun. Small gap, I think, for Nico, just with Tricky Trindle creeping in and the bye. I personally like, and what I mean by that tier break is if Cleary goes for $70, cool. Jerome Hughes goes for $60, cool. I wouldn't pay 60 for Nico, I don't think. That's why that tier break's represented there. If Dylan Brown keeps the duel, then I think he does sit in this mix down here. Again, these groupings are more fluid, where I wouldn't punish you if you took Daly way before Dylan Brown. That doesn't sort of bother me. Jerome Luai, I think, is gonna be good. Not crazy good, but I do think he's gonna be pretty effective. I think he knows he has to run. I think he has to impact the game at the Tigers. I think he's gonna really step up to that leadership role there. Coming across as a four-time premiership winners. So yeah, I like Luai as an upside gambler guy if you can get him for the right price, whether it's round 6 or 7 in Snake, maybe. Yeah, you have to be definitely after 6, I think. And in auction, if he's under $10, I think he's a solid get. If you've put value in earlier in other places of your team, I think he has the chance to average 65. Don't know if he will, but I definitely could see that potentially happening. Ben Hunt and Adam Reynolds, they're going to cannibalize each other, I think. Cody Walker's pretty old. He's fine though if you got him for the right price. He'll win you 1 or 2 weekends, I reckon, with a couple of big scores, and that's pretty good if you're getting him super late. Jamal is a little bit better to me than those guys beneath him. I think he will be better this year, Jamal. I think Brooksy, these guys beneath, they're guys I'd draft, but I wouldn't expect too much from personally. But yeah, I would draft those guys down there. Sammy Walker's your one you want to get late and stash him, I think, perhaps. And a good guy if you take a risk on a Luai, if you can get Sammy Walker cheaper, and maybe Sammy Walker comes back when the whips are cracking and Luai hasn't panned out, or Cody Walker hasn't panned out, or you get Nico and you got to buy maybe Sammy Walker's someone you stash, and then he might be playing during that buy period. That's the halfbacks. I don't have anything else, but I just wanted to get something up and get the ball rolling for the potties for 2025, because I wasn't procrastinating it, but I was just trying to think about how to perfect it, and that's just not the way to do it. The way to do it is just get cracking and then figure the rest out as you go. So yeah, if you enjoyed it, obviously give us a like, sub up, share to your mate. But yeah, comment down below anything you think I need to rethink. I'm all ears, and I want to reiterate this probably late. I'm away for work next week, but yeah, possibly the weekend, not this weekend, coming next weekend, I'll do a second iteration of where I've come. But this is just a kickstart, guys. Yep, talk soon.